June sat alone in his small apartment, eyes fixed on the TV. The news showed the same images that had been playing for 3 days now. The massive alien ships hanging in the sky. They looked like smooth, dark teardrops against the blue. 7 of them, each bigger than the biggest aircraft carrier humans had ever built. "This is not a drill," the reporter said. Her voice shook a little. "The aliens, who call themselves the Rendari, have made contact with Earth governments." June took a sip of his coffee. As an engineer at Small-Tech Solutions in Seoul, he understood machines. People were harder. But these aliens, they were a complete mystery. His phone buzzed. It was Hana, his girlfriend. "Are you watching?" she asked. "Yes," Jun said. "What do you think?" "The university is going crazy. Everyone in the physics department is trying to understand their technology. The way they just appeared, it breaks everything we know about space travel." Hana was smart, much smarter than him, Jun thought. She worked with quantum physics, the strange science of very small things. "Do you think they come in peace?" he asked. The TV answered before Hana could. The reporter looked even more worried now. "We have just received word that the Rendari have classified Earth as a Class 3 pre-interstellar species. They say this means we are not advanced enough for real diplomatic talks." June felt a cold feeling in his stomach. It was like when the big tech companies looked at his job applications and said, "Not enough experience." But this was much worse. "They're ignoring us," Hannah said, "like we're not worth talking to." The next day, June went to work, but nobody was really working. They all watched the news on their computers. The Rendari had landed on the moon. They were setting up some kind of operation there. When Earth governments sent messages asking what they were doing, the aliens gave short answers that explained nothing. "They're mining," June's boss said, watching the footage. "Look at those machines. They're taking something from the moon." "But the moon belongs to all humanity," said Sun, one of June's coworkers. "There are treaties." "I don't think they care about our treaties," June said quietly. A week passed. The Rendari continued to ignore most human attempts to communicate. They sent one message to all governments. "Your species has been properly categorized. Your technological level does not warrant extensive interaction. We will minimize our impact on your development." June watched a video of a human diplomat trying to talk to a Rendari representative. The alien was tall and thin with smooth blue-gray skin and 4 arms. It wore what looked like armor that glowed slightly along the edges. "We request information about your intentions on Earth and the moon," the diplomat said. The alien's reply was cold. "We have minor resource collection needs. Your moon has materials we require. We will also establish small observation posts on your planet. This is standard procedure for worlds at your development stage. But we should discuss terms, agreements." The alien cut him off. "There is nothing to discuss. Your species is at least 300 cycles from achieving technology that would make you relevant to galactic affairs." June felt his hands tighten into fists. He recognized that tone. It was how people talked to children, or to someone they thought was stupid. 2 days later, the news reported that Rendari ships had landed in remote areas around Earth. They were building small bases. No one had given them permission. When armies approached, strange fields appeared that stopped tanks and planes from getting close. "This is wrong," Jun said to Hana on the phone. "They can't just come here and do whatever they want." "What can we do?" Hana asked. "Their technology is so advanced. Did you see how they stopped those fighter jets? They didn't shoot them down. They just turned them off somehow." June looked at the designs on his computer screen. He was supposed to be working on a new chip design for Small-Tech, but instead he was sketching ideas, trying to understand how the alien technology might work. "I don't know yet," he said, "but everyone has weaknesses, even aliens." He didn't know then how soon he would be testing that idea, or how personal this fight would become. 3 months had passed since the Rendari ships first appeared in Earth's sky. Life had changed for everyone on Earth, but people tried to go on with their normal lives. What else could they do? June walked to work each morning past the new alien outpost. The Rendari had built it just outside Seoul 2 weeks ago. It was a smooth, dark building with no windows. Strange lights moved across its surface. A clear barrier that no one could see, but everyone could feel, kept people from getting too close. "They're watching us like we're animals in a zoo," Ta said as he and June walked past. Ta was June's friend from work, a robotics expert with a quick mind. "I heard they've set up outposts in 20 cities now," June said. "The news says they call it cultural observation." "Cultural observation," Ta snorted. "They don't even talk to us." That evening, June waited at a small restaurant for Hannah. She was late, which wasn't like her. He checked his phone again. No messages. He tried calling, but her phone went straight to voicemail. After waiting 2 hours, he went to her apartment. No one answered the door. Now he was worried. He called her friends, her coworkers. No one had seen her since she went to the university that morning. June didn't sleep that night. The next day, he went to the university. Hannah's office was locked. When he found her department head, the man looked nervous. "I'm sorry, I can't help you," he said, not meeting June's eyes. "What do you mean? Where is she?" June demanded. The department head looked around to make sure no one was listening. "The Rendari came yesterday. They took several researchers from the quantum physics lab. They said they needed consultants." June felt like the floor was dropping away under his feet. "They took her. Where?" "To their facility. The one near the city." June ran all the way to the alien outpost. 2 human security guards stood at the edge of the invisible barrier. They wore uniforms with a strange symbol, half Earth flag, half something alien. "I need to see someone inside," June said, out of breath. "They took my girlfriend, Hannah. She's a quantum physicist." The guards looked at each other. "No one goes in without authorization," one said. "Then get me authorization. I need to know she's okay." A voice came from behind the guards. "What is the disturbance?" A Rendari had appeared. It was tall, with blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer. Its 4 arms were thin but strong-looking. Its eyes were large and completely black. "This human wants to see one of the science consultants," the guard explained. The alien looked at June like he was a bug. "Human emotional attachments are not relevant to our work. The consultants are being well treated and compensated for their expertise." "Compensated? You took her without asking," June shouted. "That's kidnapping." The alien made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Your species has such limited understanding. We are advancing human knowledge by 1,000 years. The consultant group is part of an important project. Her name is Hannah," June said, his voice shaking with anger. "She's a person, not a consultant. I want to see her." "Impossible," the alien said. "The work cannot be interrupted. Your primitive emotional displays are typical of Class 3 species." It turned to the guards. "Remove this human if he continues to be disruptive." June tried to push past them, but the guards grabbed him. They were stronger than they looked. As they dragged him away, he saw more Rendari watching from inside the barrier. "I'll come back," June shouted. "You can't just take people." The guards pushed him to the ground a block away. "Don't come back," one said. "It won't end well for you." June got up slowly, brushing dirt from his clothes. He looked back at the alien building. Somewhere in there was Hannah, the woman he loved, the woman he had planned to marry. And the aliens thought she was just a resource to use. That night, June sat in his apartment looking at pictures of Hannah on his phone. His sadness was turning into something else, something hot and sharp. The Rendari had made a big mistake. They thought humans weren't a threat. June was going to prove them wrong. June stood in front of the mirror in his bathroom. His hair was cut short now. He wore a gray uniform with a patch that said, "Facility Maintenance." It had taken him 2 weeks to get this job. 2 weeks of planning, of watching the human guards who worked for the aliens, of learning when shifts changed. "I'm coming, Hana," he whispered to himself. The Rendari needed humans to clean their facility. Even with their advanced technology, they didn't want to do this work themselves. June had used fake papers to get hired. Now he could go inside the place where they kept Hana. That morning, June entered the alien facility for the first time. A human supervisor gave him a badge and a cart of cleaning supplies. "Don't talk to the Blues," the supervisor said. The humans called the Rendari Blues because of their skin. "Don't look at them too long. Don't touch anything that glows. Just do your job and go home." June pushed his cart through long hallways. The walls glowed softly. The air smelled strange, like metal and something sweet. He kept his head down, but his eyes moved constantly, looking at everything, remembering. He saw that the Rendari were not all the same. Some had darker skin and were taller. They gave orders. Others were smaller with lighter skin. They did most of the work. The Rendari had classes, just like humans did. On his third day, June was cleaning a hallway when he saw a small piece of metal on the floor. It had fallen from a broken device. When no one was looking, he put it in his pocket. Every day, June collected small things the aliens threw away or dropped. Pieces of technology, bits of their strange tools. At home, he studied these items late into the night. He took them apart. He tried to understand how they worked. 1 week into his job, something unexpected happened. A smaller Rendari was working on a wall panel. It dropped a tool which rolled toward June. June picked it up and held it out to the alien. The Rendari looked surprised. It took the tool with one of its 4 hands. "Gratitude," it said in broken human language, not expected from maintenance class. June was surprised too. This was the first time an alien had spoken directly to him. "You're welcome," June said. The alien studied him. "You different. Eyes watch much." June felt a chill. Had he been too obvious in his observations? "Just curious," June said carefully. The alien made a strange sound. "Curious good. Name designation." "June." This one tick. Low-caste maintenance technician. Over the next few days, June saw Tick often. The alien seemed lonely. The other Rendari treated it badly. Once, June saw a taller alien push Tick against a wall when it worked too slowly. June helped Tick with small tasks when no one was watching. In return, Tick began to tell June things about the Rendari. "Ship above has big quantum drive," Tick said one day, pointing up. "Makes power for here, all connected by fields." June's heart beat faster. This was important information. What kind of fields? Quantum fields. Hold things. Move things. Control things. Tick made a sweeping gesture with its hands. All one system. And the humans who were brought here. The consultants. June tried to keep his voice calm. Tick's large black eyes blinked slowly. "Work in deep labs. Help understand Earth quantum physics. Different from Rendari physics." "Are they?" "Okay." Tick seemed confused by the question. "Function as required. In stasis between work sessions." "Stasis, like asleep. More than sleep. Mind joined to systems. More efficient." June felt sick. The aliens were keeping Hannah in some kind of suspended animation, using her brain directly. But he kept his face calm. "Can I see them?" "The labs." Tick shook its head. "Not allowed. Low caste, not go there. You lower than low caste." That night, June added this new information to his growing collection of notes and diagrams. A plan was forming in his mind. The Rendari had a weakness. Their technology was all connected through quantum fields. And Hannah was an expert in quantum physics. Somehow, he would find a way to reach her. A month had passed since June started working in the Rendari facility. He learned the aliens' routines. He knew when the guards changed shifts. He knew which areas had fewer cameras. Most importantly, he had a friend in Tick, who told him more about the Renderi each day. Tick, June whispered as they worked in a quiet hallway. Where do they keep the human consultants when they're not working? Tick looked around to make sure no other Renderi were nearby. Level B3. The Deep Labs. Stasis chambers there. Can you get me there? June asked. Tick's eyes widened. Forbidden. High caste only. Please, Tick. The woman I love is down there. Tick was quiet for a long time. Finally, it spoke. Tonight. End of third shift. Less guards. That night, June's heart pounded as he followed Tick through service tunnels he didn't know existed. They went down, deep under the main floors of the facility. Quick, Tick said. Security scan every 6 minutes. They came to a large door. Tick placed all 4 of its hands on a panel. The door slid open. Inside was a large room filled with what looked like glass tubes standing upright. In each tube was a human, floating in clear liquid. Tubes and wires connected to their heads and bodies. Their eyes were closed. They looked like they were sleeping. Hannah, June whispered. He ran to one of the tubes. There she was. Her black hair floated around her face. She looked peaceful, but so pale, so still. Can we wake her up? June asked, his voice breaking. Dangerous, Tick said, but possible for a short time. It tapped on a control panel next to Hannah's tube. The liquid in the tube began to drain. The wires disconnected from Hannah's body one by one. As the last of the liquid drained away, her eyes fluttered open. She looked confused. Then she saw June. June, is that you? I had strange dreams. It's me, Hannah. I'm here. June pressed his hand against the glass. Are you okay? I don't know. They make me work on quantum field equations. It's amazing technology, but she frowned. I can't remember much when I'm awake. In the liquid, my mind is connected to something bigger. I'm going to get you out of here, June promised. You can't, Hannah said. They're too powerful. And she looked afraid. June, I've seen their plans. When we're connected to their system, we can see things. What plans? They're going to process Earth. That's what they call it. Take all the resources. Keep only enough humans to help them. Millions will die. When? June asked, his blood turning cold. 2 years, maybe less. A loud alarm suddenly blared through the room. Red lights flashed. Security scan, Tick cried. We detected. Go, Hannah shouted to June. You can't save me if you're caught. The liquid began to fill her tube again. Her eyes started to close. Hannah, I'll come back for you, June cried. Tick pulled June toward a service door. This way. Quick. They ran through narrow passages, the alarm still blaring behind them. They could hear the heavy footsteps of security guards. They barely made it out of the facility. June ran all the way home, not stopping until he locked his apartment door behind him. He sat on the floor, shaking. The image of Hannah floating in that tube wouldn't leave his mind. And her words echoed. They're going to process Earth. Millions will die. Something broke inside June that night. The fear was gone. Only rage remained. He looked at the collection of alien technology parts spread across his table. He had been careful until now. Cautious. But there was no time for caution anymore. The Renderi thought humans weren't a threat because humans didn't fight back. They had never seen what one angry engineer could do when the person he loved was taken from him. It was time to show them. June didn't go back to work at the Renderi facility. It was too dangerous now. They would be looking for him. Instead, he turned his small apartment into a workshop. The kitchen table was covered with alien tech parts. The living room floor was filled with drawings and notes. Even the walls were covered with diagrams. June had pushed his bed into a corner to make more space. He hadn't slept much in the 3 days since seeing Hannah. When he closed his eyes, he saw her floating in that tube. He saw the wires connected to her head. That image kept him working when his body wanted to rest. June picked up a small piece of metal that glowed blue. It was part of a broken Renderi tool he had taken weeks ago. He connected it to a battery he had made from other alien parts. The metal hummed and rose into the air, floating above his hand. Anti-gravity, June whispered, just like Tick explained. He carefully wrote down everything about how it worked. Then he tried connecting it to other parts. Some combinations did nothing. Others made strange fields or lights. One combination made a small explosion that burned his hand. June's phone rang. It was Ty, his friend from work. "Where are you?" Ty asked. "You haven't been at work for days." "The boss is angry." "I can't come back," June said. Something happened. He told Ty about finding Hannah, about the aliens' plans for Earth. Ty was quiet for a long time. "So what are you doing now?" Ta finally asked. "I'm going to save her. I'm going to stop them." "How?" "You're one person. They have spaceships." "I'm an engineer," Jun said. "I figure things out. I fix problems. And right now, the Renderi are a problem I need to fix." Ty was quiet again. Then he said, "I'll be at your place in an hour. I'll bring Sun too." Sun was another friend from work. She was an expert in communication systems. When Tay and Sun arrived, they looked at Jun's apartment with wide eyes. "You've been busy," Sun said, looking at all the alien tech parts. Jun showed them what he had learned, how the Renderi technology used quantum fields for everything. Power, communications, weapons, how it all connected to one main system. "If we can disrupt their fields," Jun explained, "we can shut down their systems, maybe long enough to get Hannah and the others out." "That's a big if," Ta said, but he was already looking at the parts with interest. Sun picked up the notes Jun had made. "These are Hannah's quantum physics equations, aren't they? You found her research." Jun nodded. "From before they took her. She was studying quantum field disruption. I think that's why they took her. Her work was getting close to understanding their technology." For the next week, the three friends worked together. Tai used his robotics knowledge to build small devices that could move on their own. Sun figured out how the Renderi communicated and how to listen to their messages. And Jun worked on the most important part, a device that could disrupt the quantum fields that powered all Renderi technology. It was small, about the size of his hand. It contained parts from Earth technology mixed with the alien tech he had collected. At its heart was a piece of the glowing blue metal, connected to a circuit board that Jun had designed based on Hannah's equations. "Will it work?" Sun asked as they looked at the finished device. "I don't know," Jun admitted. "We can't test it properly here. We need to get close to their systems." "That's suicide," Ta said. "They'll catch us before we get inside." Jun smiled for the first time in weeks. "We're not going inside. We're going to make them come to us." The plan was dangerous, maybe impossible. But Jun looked at the picture of Hannah on his phone. For her, he would make the impossible happen. The Renderi thought humans were weak. They thought humans were primitive. They were about to learn how wrong they were. It was almost midnight. Jun, Tai, and Sun stood on a hill overlooking the Renderi facility. The alien building glowed softly in the darkness. Guards walked around its edges. "Are you sure about this?" Sun whispered. She held a small box with buttons and a screen. Jun nodded. Tick said security is lowest at shift change. "That's in 5 minutes." Tai opened a backpack. Inside were 4 small robots, each the size of a rat. They had wheels and camera eyes. Ta had built them using parts from toys and alien tech. "My babies are ready," Ta said. "Each one carries a piece of the disruptor." Jun looked at his watch. "It's time." Sun jammed their outside sensors. Sun pressed buttons on her device. "Jamming now. We have maybe 3 minutes before they notice." Ta put the small robots on the ground. They rolled quickly down the hill toward the alien building. They found a drain pipe and disappeared inside. "Now we wait," Jun said. Inside the facility, the robots moved through air ducts and small spaces. They followed the path that Jun had planned based on what he remembered and what Tick had told him. One robot went to the power room. Another went to the security control center. The third went to the communications area. The last and most important robot headed for the deep labs where Hana was kept. They're in position, Ta said, watching the signal from the robots on Sun's screen. Jun took a deep breath. Activate the disruptors. Ta pressed a button. The small devices on each robot turned on. They sent out waves that disrupted the quantum fields that the Rendari used for everything. The effect was immediate. The lights in the facility flickered. The invisible barrier around the building disappeared. Alarms started to sound, but then went silent. It's working, Sun said. Their systems are failing. Jun was already running down the hill. Let's go. We don't have much time. They reached the main door. The electronic lock was dead. Ta used a simple tool to force it open. Inside, it was chaos. Emergency lights cast red shadows. Rendari ran in all directions, confused and scared. They had never experienced their technology failing before. Which way to the labs? Ta asked. This way, Jun said. He had memorized the path. They ran through hallways. Some Rendari saw them, but without their technology, the aliens were unsure what to do. Human intruders had never been a problem before. One tall Rendari tried to stop them. Jun used a small device he had made from alien parts. It sent a shock that made the alien fall to the ground. You made weapons too? Sun asked, surprised. Just in case, Jun said. They reached the deep labs. The door was locked, but the power was out. Ta and Jun forced it open. Inside, the stasis tubes were open. The liquid had drained out. The humans inside were waking up, confused and scared. Hana, Jun called. She was there, sitting on the floor, looking dazed. When she saw Jun, her eyes cleared. Jun, is it really you this time? Not another dream. He ran to her and helped her stand. It's me. We're getting you out of here. How did you? The systems are down. How is that possible? I'll explain later. Can you walk? Hana nodded. She looked at the other scientists waking up around her. We need to help them too. That's the plan, Jun said. He turned to Sun and Ta. Get everyone moving. We have maybe 5 minutes before their backup systems come online. They helped 20 scientists to their feet. Some could barely walk after being in stasis for so long. They supported each other as they moved toward the exit. They were almost there when the lights came back on. A group of Rendari security guards appeared ahead, blocking their path. The lead alien looked at the humans with shock. Stop. How is this possible? Your technology is primitive. Jun stepped forward, holding another of his makeshift weapons. You made a mistake. You thought we weren't a threat. The alien's eyes widened as it recognized Jun. The maintenance worker. I'm an engineer, Jun said. And you took the woman I love. He activated the weapon. A pulse of energy knocked the aliens back. The path was clear. Run, Jun shouted. They burst out of the facility into the night air. Cars were waiting, driven by friends Ta had called. The scientists piled in. As they drove away, Jun looked back. The Rendari facility's lights were coming back on, but something had changed forever. For the first time, the aliens looked afraid. Jun's small apartment was now very crowded. The rescued scientists sat everywhere, on the floor, on chairs, leaning against walls. They all looked tired but happy to be free. Hana sat next to Jun on the couch. She was still weak, but her mind was sharp. She looked at all the alien technology, and Jun's notes spread around the room. You figured out so much on your own, she said, touching a diagram. This is amazing, Jun. I had your research to start with, he said, and I had to find you. Ta brought cups of water to everyone. What happens now? The Rendari will be looking for all of you. An older scientist named Dr. Park spoke up. They won't just look for us. What you did has never happened before. You attacked them. Humans have never done that. Will they hurt more people because of us? Sun asked. Hana shook her head. I don't think so. When my mind was connected to their systems, I learned things about them. They don't think like that. To them, this is a problem to solve, not something to get angry about. What else did you learn? June asked. Hana closed her eyes, thinking. Their technology is all based on quantum fields. They use fields for everything. Power, weapons, communications, even their ships. That's why our disruptors worked, June said. Yes, but what we did was small, temporary. Hana looked at everyone. They have a much bigger system. All their ships and bases are connected through a quantum network. One of the other scientists, a woman named Min, spoke up. While we were in stasis, our minds were partly connected to their network. We all experienced it. What exactly did they want from you? Sun asked. Earth's quantum physics is different from theirs in some ways. Min explained. They wanted to understand our approach, to learn from us. Hana stood up and went to a whiteboard on the wall. She began to write equations. Their entire system has a weakness, she said as she wrote. All quantum networks have a base frequency. If you can find that frequency and create the right kind of interference, you could shut down everything. June finished, understanding immediately. Not just shut it down, Dr. Park said. A properly designed quantum virus could spread through their entire network. It would affect all their ships, all their bases. The room was quiet as everyone thought about what that meant. Could we build something like that? Tai asked. With what we know now, and what June has already built. Hana looked at June's disruptor device. Yes, we could make something much stronger. A virus that could temporarily disable all Rendari technology on and around Earth, June said. That would give humans a chance to fight back. For the next week, they worked day and night. More people joined them, engineers, scientists, and others who wanted to help. They moved to a larger place, an old warehouse that Sun's uncle owned. June and Hana worked side by side. Her knowledge of quantum physics and his engineering skills were perfect together. The other scientists contributed their own expertise. They built a new device, much more powerful than the first disruptor. It looked simple, a metal box with antennas and a glowing core made from the alien materials. Will it work? June asked as they finished it. Hana nodded. The calculations are perfect. When activated, it will create a quantum virus that will spread through their entire network. All Rendari technology within Earth's orbit will shut down for about 6 hours. 6 hours where they'll be vulnerable, Ta said. But what do we do with those 6 hours? Sun asked. We can't fight their ships. We don't have to, Jum said. We just need to show them we can. He picked up his phone and made a call. It's time to contact the government. That night, June sat with Hana on the roof of the warehouse. They looked up at the stars, where the Rendari ships hung in orbit, invisible to the naked eye, but always there. Are you afraid? Hana asked. Yes, June admitted, but not of them anymore. I'm afraid of what comes next. What do you mean? We're about to change everything, Hana. The world will never be the same. She took his hand. It already changed when they arrived. Now we're just making sure it changes on our terms. June squeezed her hand. Tomorrow, they would show the Rendari what humans could really do. Government officials sat around a large table. They looked skeptical as June and Hana explained their plan. Military officers stood along the walls, listening carefully. Let me understand this, said Minister Kim, the head of defense. You built a device that can shut down all alien technology for 6 hours. Yes, June said, but we need to set up similar devices at multiple Rendari facilities across the country. One is not enough for what we're planning. And why should we believe this will work? Another official asked. Hannah stepped forward. Because we already did it on a small scale. We rescued 20 scientists from their facility. Your own people confirmed this. The room was quiet. Then a general spoke. If this works, what do you expect us to do during these 6 hours? Fight back, Jun said simply. Show them we're not helpless. Your weapons won't work directly against their ships, but you can take back their ground facilities. This is very risky, Minister Kim said. If we attack and fail, they might retaliate against our cities. Dr. Park, who had come with them, spoke up. They're already planning to process Earth. Millions will die if we do nothing. After hours of discussion, the government agreed. Not just Korea, but governments around the world. The story of Jun's successful rescue had spread. Other countries had their own escaped scientists who confirmed everything. 3 days later, Jun stood in a military base, watching soldiers load trucks with copies of his quantum disruptor. Each one had been built carefully, following the designs he and Hannah had created. They're being sent to Japan, China, Russia, America, and Europe, General Lee told him. We've coordinated the timing. All devices will activate at exactly 300 hours tomorrow. Hannah joined them, looking at a tablet computer. The Rendari still don't know what's coming. Their communications show no signs of concern. Why would they be concerned? Jun said. They still think we're just primitive humans. That night, Jun could not sleep. He stood at the window of the military base, looking at the stars. Somewhere up there, 7 massive Rendari ships floated above Earth. They had been there for months now, a constant reminder that humans were no longer alone, and no longer at the top. Ready? Hannah asked, coming to stand beside him. As ready as I'll ever be. At exactly 3:00 a.m., Jun activated the main quantum disruptor. Around the world, identical devices turned on at the same moment. They sent out a specific pulse that targeted the base frequency of the Rendari quantum network. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the night sky lit up. The massive alien ships, normally invisible to the naked eye, suddenly glowed bright as their systems failed. The light lasted only seconds, then went dark. It's working, Hannah whispered. All across the world, military forces moved. Tanks and soldiers surrounded Rendari facilities. Aircraft carriers launched planes, not to attack the ships in orbit, but to show they could. The Rendari, suddenly without their technology, faced something new, humans who were no longer afraid. Jun watched on a screen as soldiers entered the facility where Hannah had been held. The aliens inside were confused, their weapons useless. For the first time, they were the ones who were vulnerable. Similar scenes played out across the globe. No blood was shed. That wasn't the plan. This was a show of force, a message. Humans could fight back. 6 hours later, as dawn broke, the Rendari systems began to come back online. But something had changed forever. Their ships remained in orbit, but no longer looked invincible. A message came in from orbit, broadcast on all frequencies in perfect human language. We request immediate communication with Earth leadership. Minister Kim looked at Jun with raised eyebrows. They want to talk. After all this time, they finally want to talk. Jun nodded. That was the goal. Not to defeat them, just to make them see us as equals. And it only took one angry engineer to do it, Hannah said, taking his hand. 1 week after the worldwide shutdown of Rendari technology, Jun stood nervously in a large meeting room in Seoul. World leaders and military commanders sat at one side of a long table. Across from them were 5 tall Rendari. Jun recognized the leader, a dark blue-skinned alien with markings on its face. This was a high commander, the highest-ranking Rendari to ever visit Earth's surface. Hannah stood beside Jun. They were there as technical advisors, but everyone knew they were much more. They were the ones who had changed everything. We have reassessed Earth's classification, the High Commander said. Its voice was deep and came through a small device that translated its words. Humans are now designated as a Class 1 adaptive species. The human leaders looked at each other. The Earth's ambassador spoke. "What does that mean?" "It means you are dangerous when threatened," the High Commander said. "Few species develop the ability to reverse engineer our technology so quickly. Fewer still would use it so effectively." June felt strange hearing these words. Just months ago, the Rendari had treated humans like animals. Now they were sitting at a table, talking as equals. "We wish to understand how you did this," another Rendari said, looking directly at June. "Our reports indicate this human was a simple maintenance worker. How did one of your kind defeat our systems?" Before June could answer, the ambassador spoke. "Mr. June is an engineer, one of our best, and he had strong motivation. You took someone he cared about." The aliens seemed confused by this. They spoke to each other in their own language for a moment. Emotional attachments leading to technological advancement. "This is unexpected," the High Commander said. "Perhaps you should have studied us more carefully before deciding we weren't worth talking to," Hannah said. Her voice was calm but firm. The rest of the meeting was long and complex. The Rendari admitted their plans to process Earth and apologized in their own strange way. They offered new terms. They would share some of their technology in exchange for limited mining rights on uninhabited parts of the Moon and Mars. No human would be taken without permission again. No Rendari facility would be built on Earth without agreement from local governments. As the meeting ended, the High Commander approached June and Hannah directly. "We have a question," it said. "Our records show that you, June, had no access to advanced technology. No special weapons. No army. Just your mind and some scraps of our discarded equipment." "That's right," June said. "Yet you found a weakness in systems that have been perfect for 1,000 years. The High Commander's large eyes studied him. "How?" June thought for a moment. "You made a mistake. You thought your technology made you superior. But technology isn't what makes a species strong." "Then what does?" "The will to fight for what matters," June said, looking at Hannah. "And the ability to adapt." The High Commander was quiet. Then it made a strange gesture with its 4 hands. "We have much to learn from each other, it seems. We will watch Earth's development with great interest." Later that day, June and Hannah stood on the roof of the building, looking up at the sky. The alien ships were still there, but now they seemed less threatening. "What happens now?" Hannah asked. "We keep learning," June said. "We keep building. And we make sure they never underestimate us again." "Do you think they'll keep their word about sharing technology?" June smiled. "If they don't, I have a few more ideas." Hannah laughed and took his hand. Below them, the city was coming back to life. News of the treaty was spreading. Humans were looking up at the sky with hope instead of fear. Far above, the stars twinkled in the evening light. The universe had become much bigger in the past few months, and humanity had shown it was ready to claim its place among the stars, even if it took one angry engineer to prove it.